Binder, ba ba da 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 da. Do you want me to play with you? Baruch atah Eloheinu. Let's see. Wow, even in the right key. In the right key. Thank you, Barbara. That was great. Shall we? Yes, indeed. Right. We'll get us rolling.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good to see you all. Soon we will be outside, but the AC does feel awfully nice, I must say. Welcome to all of you coming to us from online. We are, as we often do on Shabbat, straddling many emotions. I think this week feels like a very wide embrace. We're holding the sorrow and the tragedy of this week's events. We'll speak about those. And we're also holding the joy of two young students from our community who will be sharing about their Project Understanding adventures in Israel. And we're going to embrace it all. We also are going to celebrate a birthday. So tomorrow, Barbara Herman will be celebrating her birthday, and we invite her to come up with her bow, or not, if he doesn't want to kindle the Sabbath lights, bringing light and hope as someone who you're always casting light and nurturing, particularly with the eye of your camera and in so many other ways. So we are on page 2.
B'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Continuing on page 10. And Cantor is reminding me, and invite us all to stand. And before we go into the joy and the healing and the exaltation that is Shabbat, we're going to take a few seconds of silence as we hold the losses and trauma of the past week. You may be seated.
Page 12. We begin our journey through the Psalms with the words of Psalm 95. Lechu neranena l'Adonai, nariya letzur yishenu, nekadma fanav betodah, bizmirod nariya lo, ki el gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim, asher beyadav mechakrei haaretz, v'to'afot harim lo.
Page 13, Psalm 96.
Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, בכל העמים נפלאותיו. כי גדול אדוני ומחולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. כי כל אלוהי האמים אלילים, ואדוני שמיים עשה. הוד והדר לפניו, עוז ותפארת במקדשו. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ירם הים, ירם הים, ירם הים ומלואו. 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 יעלו שרי וכל אשר בו, אז ירננו כל הצייר. לפני ארוני קיווה, קיווה לשפוט הארץ. ישפוט תבל בצדק, וימים באמונתו. Page 14. אדוני מלך תגל הארץ, ישמחו עם רבים ענן ורפל סביבה צדיק ומשפט כיסו. אוהבי אדוני שנאו רע, שומר נפשות חסידיו, מיד רשעים יצילם. אור זרו על הצדיק וישרה לב שמחה. שמחו צדיקים באדוני, והודו לזכר קודשו.
Turning to page 16.
זמרו לאדוני בכינור, בכינור וכל זמרה. 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 And on this Shabbat, Parshat Bechukotai, I'm reminded, actually I'm thinking fast forwarding a few weeks, never mind. בחצוצרות וקול שופר, הריעו לפני המלך אדוני, ירם הים ומלוא, תבר ויושבבה, נהרות עמך וכף, יחד הרים ירננו, לפני אדוני קיווה לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק, וימים במישרים.
Turning to 18.
מזמור לדוד, הבו לאדוני בני אלים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, ישתחוו לאדוני להדרת קודש. קול אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד ירים, אדוני על מים רבים. קול אדוני בכוח, קול אדוני בהדר, קול אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון. וירקידם כמו עגל, לבנון וסריון, כמו בין רמים. Top of 19. קול אדוני חוצה אבות אש, קול אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש, קול אדוני יכלה איילות. ויחשוף יראות ובהיכו לו, אדוני למה בו ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לימו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום.
So we're about to bridge to Lachadodi on page 20. Just really appreciating how masterfully the cantor is navigating the joy of Shabbat with the solemnity of the week. It takes such a deft musical sensibility and depth of soul to do that. So before we bridge to greeting the bride, let's look around and greet each other. We just said, Adonai oz le'amo yitain. We get strength from God, but we certainly get it from each other. Say hello, say Shabbat Shalom. Maybe even if you want to be brave, you can get up and cross the aisle. Some people do that and say hello to someone you don't know. Maybe you can just see their eyes. Maybe you can see their whole face. Likrat kala, we greet each other as well. Page. And to you online, we can see you. We can sense you're with us. Glad you are. Page 20.
לחדודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור שמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת מקבלה. לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת מקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם לסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת תקבלה. לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת תקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
22.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להכיר בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
Indented paragraph 22.
צדיקת עמה יפרח כארז בלבנון, יזכה שתולים בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו. להגיד כי ישר אדוני צור
page is on 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ויאמר יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון וחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולם מעולמיה יברך. יתברך וישתבח ויבהר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
Actually, this is going to be our first Project Understanding speaker, so you
Wow.
can sit down,
This
but
is-
you
that
are
was
well trained. That's amazing.
On cue, that was terrific.
That is just like, there's Shabbat observance for you.
Psych.
So, just a word about Project Understanding before I call up our first speaker. Project Understanding brings together Jewish and Catholic teenagers from Long Island to learn more about their neighbors and their own faith and traditions, and then to travel to Israel together with a representative of each faith co-leading the trip, 12 students, 6 Jewish, 6 Catholic. Project Understanding began over 30 years ago. It was the brainchild of Monsignor Thomas Hartman and our own TBE member, past president, Roger Tillis, who may be watching now. If you are, Roger, Shabbat Shalom. And actually, I found in my closet excavations, which I'm doing a lot of these days, I found a Project Understanding book from 2011 with letters from every student. So check that out at the Oneg, and I'll gift it to you, Roger, later. They're all letters to you, Roger. So after, with a rigorous application process, with a rabbi and a priest or other clergy member, these students are nominated and they produce an essay and are interviewed. And their events together include both religious events and also community service components. And then they have this amazing experience of Israel travel. So it is my delight and my joy to call up our wonderful Harrison Weinberg, who's going to share a little bit about his own experiences. And he will speak slowly and close to the mic, which I will raise to meet his stature.
Thank you. So we just went. It was a pretty cool trip. So I'm going to talk to you guys about it. So this trip to Israel was much needed and has truly changed the course of my life. I'm so blessed to have gotten this opportunity, given all the setbacks. I remember like back in 2020, we were trying to get this position. And I remember I wasn't sure about whether I would get it or not because I do come from an interfaith background. And I did not know how the process worked. So there was a weird question that Father Dan asked. He was the priest that interviewed me, and he was asking about ice cream. And I was talking to him about ice cream. I left that interview, and I was like, I had a good talk with him, but we'll see what happens. So I bet you could all imagine how ecstatic I was when I found out I was going to Israel, and so too was Cameron. So the both of us were going to go to Israel. And then COVID-19 set in, and the reality came back that we're not out of it just yet, and we're going to have to postpone the trip. It's going to have to wait. So it got postponed several times until recently in April, we finally ended up going. And I dropped everything for this trip. I had a swim meet lined up in there. I had robotics to attend to, but I dropped school, swim, surfing, robotics, all knowing that this was going to be the opportunity of a lifetime. And we met the group up at the airport, and I was standing in line at the TSA, and I could not believe that in about 10 hours, we were going to be in a different country altogether. and I mean, the excitement was coursing through my veins. So this trip had many memorable moments. I've known Cameron since we were really young, and this trip only allowed us to grow even closer. Luckily, I was able to climb Masada with him and share that journey on the very first day. And that was where he held his bar mitzvah while he was at Israel. And I got to see the excitement and knowledge in his face as we trudged up the mountain. And it truly was an incredible journey with him. But Cameron will talk more about that later. For me, the most significant moment that we shared was in Jerusalem. And the city is truly living and teeming with religion. The atmosphere was powerful as we wandered the old city. And then finally we got to the Kotel, which was absolutely amazing. The area was silent as we went on Shabbat, and it really contrasted with the bustling Muslim and Christian quarters. The scene was a wall radiating white under the rays of the sun, and we approached the western wall with our notes in hand, and we each offered our silent prayers. Then Cameron and I got the chance to pray with Father Dan and the rest of the boys on the trip. Cameron's knowledge of the traditions and sites, as well as his devotion, were emanating from him as he spoke. I could not have had a better experience at the Kotel. I felt my own passion for faith soaking in from the bright stone. At the end of the day, we were back at the hotel room, talking about our day. I mean, we played poker, laughed, and bonded over the whole experience that just occurred. And that day brought me closer to God and more devoted in faith. I saw the passion Cameron had and felt the beauty of all the sights as we traveled there. I really made a profound connection with Cameron and Reno, who was the other boy who was a Catholic, and he was in the hotel room with us. And we all experienced the power of Jerusalem together and left with our mouths gaping in awe. Though through Cameron's knowledge and understanding, we both left Jerusalem as a better, more connected version of ourselves. And Reno said it best when he was talking with his mom that night, "I found my brothers." I also felt moved on this trip on a very personal level. While in the Sea of Galilee, the world seemed to just stop and stand still. It was very quiet and peaceful there, with nature surrounding us. The kibbutz was nestled right on the water, and there were trees and gardens all around us. I roamed around barefoot in the lush grass and felt the cool breeze of the water. For those of you who don't know me, I am a nature person. I have always felt a profound connection with the animals and wild, and without them I would be truly lost. I am always at the beach or on the water over the summer. Hiking is at least a weekly occurrence, and many other adventures are also expected in my day-to-day life. I'm an avid camper and have gone weeks in nature. I thrive in the wild, roaming this beautiful world and freeing myself. As you might be able to tell, I was excited to see the sights around the Sea of Galilee. We visited the church where Peter was told by Jesus that he should begin building the church. We also visited the Church of the Beatitudes. Both of these sites are built in nature and surrounded by nature. In fact, nature seeps into the chapels there. These sites brought the world of God and nature together for me to see, and it was the perfect place for me to explore faith. I felt comfortable and at peace, yet at the same time, I felt the significance and power of Israel. It was in this time for reflection on the journey, while at the kibbutz in the Sea of Galilee, that I was able to collect my thoughts and weigh in on the experience. Here I gathered my feelings from Jerusalem and was able to realize how beautiful and sacred this land is. Feeling the breeze in my face, smelling the fresh scents of the flowers, and roaming the grasses barefoot, I was able to feel the spirit of the land and grace of God. I felt the love of God around me and through the love of all the members of our group. With nature, peace, and stillness surrounding me, I was able to realize how amazing this trip has been and how lucky I am to be connected to this land and faith. The beauty of Israel doesn't just lie in the sights, though. To me, there were many experiences where I could pinpoint the moments that Catholicism was felt strongly. However, that cannot be said for Judaism. Unfortunately, with the destruction and attempted erasing of Jewish temples and sites, there are not many specific places of Jewish significance. Instead, I found something even better, even more amazing than any site. I found that the whole country, the whole nation of Israel, is a Jewish site in it of itself. The food, the land, the air, all carry Judaism. I also felt a strong connection to my faith when the people spoke, and I felt a strong sense of community that this land shares. Many people judge and take glimpses of Israel, but what I found on this trip was a welcoming community of people who loved their faith, and it was there that I was able to become more devout in faith and religion. Thank you, guys.
Continuing on page 28. You can now rise.
Lai lai la lai lai la 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 lai lai la 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 lai 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 la la lai lai la 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 lai lai la la lai la 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 lai Barechu et Adonai hamevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed
Page 30. Actually, let's join on 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
Umavir yom umevir laila Umavdil ben yom uben laila Adonai tzevahot shemo El chai v'kayam Tamid yimloch aleinu Leolam vaed Baruch atah Adonai Hamahari v'haravi
32.
We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, an unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, an unending love. We are embraced by arms that find us, even when we are hidden from ourselves. We are touched by fingers that soothe us, even when we are too proud to be soothed. We are counseled by voices that guide us, even when we are too bitter to hear. But we are loved, loved, loved by unending love, an unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, an unending love. We are supported by hands that uplift us, even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us, even when we're too weak for meeting. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, an unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, an unending love. Ki heim chayenu ve'yorech yameinu ve'yorech yameinu Uvahem nege yomam v'layla yomam v'layla v'yahavatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael
34.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevo Malchuto Leolam Vaed
36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
41 with me. Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect. The song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
Page 40. Lie, 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 lie. Mi kamocha, Elim Adonai, mi kamocha, nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilo, oseh feleh, nora tehilo, oseh feleh. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה לי ענו ויאמרו, זה לי ענו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
43.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu ve'amidenu le'shalom. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol hamo ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Okay, Cameron Cooper, you're up.
Tell us more about Yerushalayim.
Good evening. My name is Cameron Cooper, and I returned a little over a month ago from the trip of a lifetime. I traveled to Israel for 8 days with an incredible group of intellectual seniors from all around Long Island. Back in the fall of 2020, Harrison and I each wrote an essay with the hopes of being selected and being able to embark on a spiritual and beautiful trip to the Holy Land. It turned out both of our essays were selected, so we had interviews with a priest by the name of Father Dan, who I am happy to call a close friend of mine. In these interviews, we were asked questions about our lives, and we opened up about our personal stories, and we discussed our favorite ice cream flavors and which flavor we believed God would like the most. After the interviews, Harrison and I received calls later that night confirming that we had both officially been selected to embark on this journey. We were thrilled because during the hardest times of COVID-19, we found joy and excitement. COVID-19 ended up delaying our trip to April of 2022 when it was initially supposed to be in February of 2021. Although this was disappointing, the patience and waiting made it that much more intriguing. There were 6 Jewish seniors and 6 Catholic seniors that were chosen. During the 14-month span where we couldn't go to Israel, the 12 of us got extremely close and made an effort to meet up and get dinners together to get to know each other better. We also participated in many community service projects and gave back to our community of Long Island to help those in need. In doing so, I learned what it really means to give back and be someone people can appreciate. Finally, the long-awaited journey was in front of us while we huddled together at John F. Kennedy Airport. All of us were super excited, and we thanked the leader of the program, our friend Lauren Chisner, for staying committed and for helping us to finally get the opportunity to go to Israel as a group. When we arrived in Israel on April 7th, we made our way to the Jerusalem Gardens Hotel, where we shared a moment of Shehekianu. We all stood under the trees by the hotel, watching the sunset, and shared our favorite aspect of being in such a beautiful and peaceful place. After that, we all got as much rest as we could and hit the ground running the next morning. We woke up at 6:30 in the morning, had a quick breakfast, and made our way to our first destination, Mount Masada. This was an extremely significant part of the trip for me, and I was so excited that I got to share this special moment with my fellow seniors. We arrived at 7:45 in the morning and began to hike the snake trail of Masada. After a 45-minute hike, 8 out of the 12 of the seniors made it to the top, and we celebrated. The other 4 had to take the tram. The view from the top was spectacular, and the Dead Sea looked incredible. It was very emotional because the last time I was atop Masada, I had my bar mitzvah. 4.5 years later, I had finally returned and even got to stand where I stood and recited my parsha. This was such a beautiful moment for me, so of course I shared the experience via FaceTime call with my parents and aunt and uncle, who were there when I chanted from the Torah in the exact same spot. This memory that I got the opportunity to share with my fellow Project Understanding friends will stay with me forever. Immediately following, we made our way to the Dead Sea for lunch. Most of us ate delicious shawarma, then we smothered each other from head to toe in mud and floated in the Dead Sea. Everyone was smiling with joy, and it was such an experience floating with my good friends in the most holy place for both faiths, Israel. The mud made all of our skins super smooth. This was my second time ever floating in the Dead Sea, and I am so happy that everyone else had as meaningful of an experience as I did. My personal favorite place in all of Israel is the Western Wall. At the Kotel, I was fortunate enough to place my notes with hopes, aspirations, and optimism for the future in the cracks of the wall. I privately prayed for the health of my family and friends, and for everyone that has helped me in any way, shape, or form. I shared my appreciation for all that have helped me to become the person I am today. Wearing my white Shabbat shirt, talit, and my chai necklace, I had a moment with God in the holiest place in our faith. It was truly an honor to share this moment with my friends, specifically the men that stood with me. I was impressed by how the Catholic students prayed similarly to the Jewish students. We all prayed for the same thing, and our goal was to ensure everyone was recognized and appreciated for all that they have done. Following our moment at the wall, all 6 of us guys stood together, including Father Dan, in a moment of silence and reflection. We all prayed peacefully together. First, Harrison and I taught and led the rest of the guys in the Shema, Shehekienu, and Mourner's Kaddish. The Mourner's Kaddish was the prayer that really stuck out to me because the last time I had stood at the Western Wall, my bubby, which is Yiddish for grandma, was alive and healthy and has since passed. I miss her every day, but I know that my prayers and blessings will continue to help her in her journey through the afterlife. This trip as a whole has meant so much to me and has assisted me to become the best version of myself that I can be. On a spiritual level, I've created a closer relationship with God and myself, and will continue to pray and bring these memories with me in the next stage of my life. I am blessed to have learned more about Catholicism through walking the Stations of the Cross in Jerusalem, viewing beautiful artwork at the Church of Annunciation, and enjoying the silence of prayer at the Church of Beatitudes, sitting atop the Sea of Galilee. I loved attending a Mass service at sunset by the Sea of Galilee, and I look forward to attending more Mass services and having the Catholic students join us in more Jewish services. With my Jewish and Catholic friends, I look forward to continuing our journey of understanding. Thank you. Ran away.
So actually, I just got an email from Lauren Chisner reminding us that rising juniors should apply. So if there are any in the room, just kidding. Anyways, and I was also looking at my Jewish calendar, it's Yom Yerushalayim this Sunday, which is often, it's a reunification of the city, and it's thought of, Yerushalayim is the city of peace. Sadly, Yom Yerushalayim is not always a peaceful day. May it be this year, but I'm thinking that these reflections encapsulate what that city and what the aspirations of our faith are all about. So thank you. Okay. We continue now with Vishamru on 44.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam perit olam Ay beini uvein b'nei Yisrael od hilei olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz uvayom hashevi'i shavat vayinafash uvayom hashevi'i shavat vayinafash.
Amidah begins on 46, rise in body or in spirit.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu v'yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah.
50.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך, סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Continuing our own seated or standing, the reflections on the pages or those in our hearts.
יהיו לרצון אמרפי אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך יהיו לרצון אמרפי אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Vegoali. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Vegoali. Yiyol Ratzon, Imrefi, Imrefi. והגיון ליבי לפניך.
Taking a moment now to think of those in need of healing of any kind. Misha Berach is on 253. And as I scan the room, inviting you to offer names aloud or in the silence of your hearts. It's okay if your voices overlap. Names for healing.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Yisheberach imotenu vekol habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So, no sermon tonight, that you boys have done that. Thank you very much. But a word. Before I bridge to that, just the apple does not fall far from the tree, and the families that you come from have raised two incredible young men. And it takes a village. We're happy to fan the fire, but really, what a beautiful thing to see and to know that you're going to continue that spiritual evolution. So this week's parsha opens, Im bechukotai telechu ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru. If you walk in my chukim and mishpatim, my ritual and ethical laws, vasitem otam, and you do them, v'natati gishmechem be'itam, you're going to get your rains in the right time. V'natna ha'aretz yivula, and you're going to have just incredible abundance in your land. The earth is going to yield all of its produce. These opening verses of the Parsha go on to describe all the good things that are going to happen if we can just keep our act together, morally and ritually, and spiritually. V'natati shalom ba'aretz. V'natati shalom ba'aretz. I will give peace upon the land, and you are going to be able to go to sleep, not afraid of anything. And then we read this week, V'cherev lo ta'avor ba'artzechem, and the sword will not pass through your land. Ibn Ezra, the 12th century Spanish commentator, teaches that this verse is not referring to the cherev from the enemy, the sword that comes from outside, but rather the sword that might be brandished from within, a peace that can be achieved internally. The beautiful vision that is that of Project Understanding. In other words, the cherev, the weapon, is our own, and we can be spared its violence if we live according to God's laws. Then, after enumerating all our potential blessings, the Parsha goes on to say that if we don't align ourselves with the holy, it's really quite an enumeration of kinds of pestilence. And then there's this injunction, and I will heap your carcasses upon your fetishes. Scores of dead piled upon our idols. As a nation, what do we idolize? And what do we hold dear? V'cherev lo ta'avor ba'artzachem, the sword will not pass through our land, or ta'avor, it will pass through. Can we build amongst ourselves the peace, the abundance, the security promised in Parashat Bechukotai? This evening, as we count the 42nd day of the Omer, we conclude a 6th week that has been devoted entirely to the concept of Yesod, which is bonding, unity. We pray that as a nation, we can come together to respond to tragedy with humanity, with unity, that we can actually enact legislation about weapon access that can make a difference, that could save a life. Dear God, guide our nation and our leaders so that we can allow for the possibility of your abundant blessing, as promised in this week's Parsha. So I'm going to invite us to rise and offer Rabbi Naomi Levy's beautiful poem, and we will conclude that with the counting of the Omer. So please join with me. If you're at home, your hearts can join in these words. Our hearts are breaking, God, as we mourn innocent children and their teachers. The loss is overwhelming. Send comfort and strength, God, to grieving parents, to siblings, family, and friends. In this time of shock and mourning, shield them from despair. Send healing to the school children who are lost and frightened, whose eyes witnessed unfathomable horrors. Ease their pain, God. Let their fears give way to hope. Let their cries give way once more to laughter. Bless us, God. Work through us. Turn our helplessness into action. Teach us to believe that we can rise up from this tragedy with a renewed faith in the goodness of our society. Shield us from indifference and from our tendency to forget. Open our hearts, open our hands. Innocent blood is calling out to us to act and pass laws that will stop gun violence. Remind us that we must commit ourselves to prevent further bloodshed. With all our hearts and souls, teach us perseverance and dedication. Let us rise up as one in a time of soul-searching and repair, so that all children can go to school in peace, God. Let them be safe, God of the brokenhearted, God of the living, God of the dead. Gather their souls of the victims into your eternal shelter. Let them find your peace in your presence, O God. Let their lives have ended, but their lights can never be extinguished. May they shine on us always and illuminate our way. Amen.
Amen.
And to find the prayer for counting the Omer, you can turn to 278. You may be seated if you need a little break. So only 1 week away from Shavuot and confirmation and graduation. It's exciting.
Hineni mukhan umzoman, Hineni mukhan umzoman, Hineni mukhan umzoman, Lekayem lemitzvat aseh shel sfirat ha'omer.
And the bracha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer.
Hayom 42 yom shehem shisha shavuot Omer. Today is 42 days, which marks 6 weeks of the Omer. Okay. Are we at Aleinu?
Mm-hmm.
Rise again if you're able. 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Take taking now a moment for memory. If you hear the name of someone you've come to remember, please rise when you hear that name and remain standing. While he has not yet been laid to rest, we acknowledge the passing of Isidore Sonny Landsberg, your brother, Jerry. And in the past 30 days, Lois Pergament, Michael Schutzel, Michael Tucker, and the Yortsites this week for Max Bartner and Seth Bartner, Mac Beagleman, Hannah Dobbin, Mamie Ellis, Ethel Grain, Mabel London, Susan Casper Orsini, Gittel Lydia Sternavilla, Harry Walken, and Milton Siegel.
We also, as a community, acknowledge and mourn lives cut far too short this week. Alexandria Ania Rubio, Alicia Ramirez, Amerie Jo Garza, Annabel Guadalupe Rodriguez, Elihana Cruz Torres, Eliana Eli Garcia, Jackie Cazares, Jaila Nicole Seliguero, Jesse Luevanos, Jose Flores, Laila Salazar, Makena Lee Elrod, Maite Rodriguez, Miranda Mathis, Navea Bravo, Rogelio Torres, Tess Marie Mata, Uzia Garcia, Javier Lopez, as well as Eva Mirales, Irma Garcia, and Joe Garcia. If it is your custom to rise for the martyrs of our people, or for those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, or for the victims of senseless violence, please rise now and join with me as we say together, Yitkadal v'yikadash shemei Rabba, Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach le'alam olomei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yithalal shmei dekudesha brich hu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
You may be seated. Okay, announcements. Torah study tomorrow morning, I think, led by the cantor. And we have a wonderful baby naming happening at Morning Minyan. Would encourage you to join and celebrate with this beautiful family. And then in just a little over a week, Erev Shavuot, June 4th, celebrating our graduates. That'll be at 7 p.m. And then the next morning, we will begin with Yizkor at 9:30, and then our confirmation Shavuot service at 10. And if you'd like to join our confirmation families for lunch, just need to register. We'd love to have you join us. And let's see, our annual meeting is on May 31st, this coming Tuesday, and it's been all bumped a little later. We're going to begin at 8, but you can come and schmooze a little before that. And the following weekend, there'll be some sort of a celebration. I'm not really sure of what, but it sounds like a lot of people are putting a lot of time into it. And let's see, Phil always steps up to usher, which is so appreciated. and always steps up to do so many other things. But if anybody else would like to be, it really actually is a sacred role to be that person at the door. Let Joy Polewski in the office know.
But you have to have a smile as wide as Phil's.
You're never fully dressed without one. And it is a joy to celebrate happy occasion, even amidst the challenging realities of the outside world. And so coming up again to celebrate a birthday, come on up. If maybe both of you can come up now, because we have a challah and the kiddush. And we can rise with them so they don't feel lonely. Barbara and Howard. And we are on page 4.
ויכולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבם, ויכול אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים.
Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Happy birthday. And we'll
conclude on page 321 with the last paragraph of Adon Olam.
And you'll help Phil by bringing your prayer book back.
בידו אבקיד רוחי, בעת תישן וירא, ואם רוחי כהביאתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא, ואם רוחי כהביאתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא. My soul I give to you, my spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Hold me in your hand. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Safely in your hand. Be'ado אבקיד רוחי, בעת תישן וירא, ואם רוחי גוויתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא, ואם רוחי גוויתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא. Shalom.
Thank you, Cam. Thank you, Sam.